I wait in my dark, sticky, moldy corner with a cold brass pen in hand. Pictures flooding my head of what stands outside, waiting for my pitiful sight. Numb acceptance is all I felt till I took notice of it. And once I noticed, the realization hit hard, for I realized what I must do. But now that I notice this acceptance, panic washes over me again. I wish no foot has to cross this land, cursed by the sight of such wretched shadow. Ford was 1924. During the late fall, a violent breeze chilled the air, causing every living creature to squirm. Prioritizing visiting the chapel meant dealing with the breeze. However, everyone understood the importance of our God's words. Gathering around, people layered themselves in covers while the men silently endured. No one had asked to be let inside despite the cold, because they knew they needed the priest's permission from God. And that rarely happens. I, a single working man who lived across from the chapel, watched through the foggy windows. But once the roar of the crowd grew, I wasn't sure I would be able to hear the sermon. As the guardsmen started silencing the crowd, the priest, who was described as a tall, white, bald man wearing white robes with a golden accent following the seams, stepped to the podium in front of the crowd. Ye here today are gathered to recognize our Savior's new message. He speaks of bright grandeur coming our way very soon. His voice rings of excitement and gleaming pride, though it was clear to me that not even he knew what he spoke of. Our sweet loving Father Zarian plans to reveal himself to our undeserving eyes. He spoke to me of the blessings we shall receive as a consequence for our loyal following. I am proud of all you loving, faithful children of the sea. I've never heard Priest Harris speak with such joy. Tears streamed down his face as he preached the good news. Families hug each other and embrace. Crowds chatter, grows with shining exuberance. But the chatter fell short as a sudden crack came from the ocean. Thunder struck down with rain falling from the skies. People started spreading out and looking for cover. But even over the chaos, everyone, including I, could hear the manic screaming of a man running up from the ocean bay. As he ran to the crowd, the people froze and stared at him. I watched closely as his running stopped as he struggled to gasp for air. After a short second of silence in the crowd, he abruptly gasped, and to the astonishment of everyone, he started yelling indescribable words. Words built in ways hard to understand. Words mixed with dread and anger. As his voice deepened, he struck violently against the walls. With his voice becoming louder, everyone covered their ears, and blood shot out of his reddened throat. Each word carried excruciating pain, and so with sharpened haste, he picked up a stick and shoved it into his neck. He fell down to his knees, blood running down his arm. Everyone fell in panic, running around as a dead man stared back at me with his empty eyes. My mouth filled with acid spew, and I wrenched onto the plank floor in painful groans. Once I looked back, a shadow covered the town, and everyone stared toward the ocean with jaws ajar. I tried to see what they were looking at, but as I pushed my face into the window, a sharp pain hit my side of my head, and my vision went black. I awoke on the cold, wet floor, a rock next to my head, and glass shattered everywhere. With a nauseating headache, I struggled up, vision barely intact. As I observed the scene, I couldn't help but hurl again. Bodies laid limp across the wet ground. Blood rolled down the rain's runoff. Intestines of a child were left mangled across the rocks as a man next to him laid with a knife sunken in his neck. Birds ripped the flesh out of a woman who hung on the blackened branches of a nearby tree. A cross pushed viciously down the priest's throat had stuck out of his groin. Though seeing this horror was scarring, the true petrifying sight was seeing the shadow still looming over the town. Months of meaningless life harbored the sound of corrupted waves. I sat holding my 1920 Luger that I had hid from the church under my pillow. Dry whimpers were the only sound I made as I stared down the barrel. It's not cowardice which stops me, but an overwhelming sense of curiosity of what looms over my home. I must see what looks down on me, causing all to lose sanity. Once I leave this journal and go outside, I shall most probably perish in a way this thing deems amusing. Therefore, if anyone were to find this journal, please look for my wife, Marie, on the mainland near Chicago. Tell her I love her, and I regret ever leaving to find God. There is no God here, for even he would be deterred by the deception of this land. Tell my son Joshua that his old man loves him, and to never follow the path of faith, for that's how his old man died gruesomely. And for those who find this, run. Never look back.